Góðan daginn. Í gær kem ég aftur til Reykjavíkur eftir að hafa verið á stórkostlegri ferð á Vestfjörðum. Ég mjög glad yfir því hafa fengið þennan möguleika. Takk fyrir. My colleague from Landsvirkjun is from the West Fjords. It was an amazing trip we had this weekend. Iceland, so blessed with magnificent surroundings. And as my home country, Norway, powered by nature. So there you have our narrative, everlasting resources, forces of nature. And yes, Statkraft is the largest producer of renewable energy in Europe, and we're also a leading international player in the energy markets. But there is something fundamental going on that affects also renewable companies. My topic is change. Now, never before has change happened so fast with such a great impact as we are realizing as we speak, than anyone could imagine within the industry. The energy industry is about turnarounds. It's about disruptions. It's about dramatic fall in revenues. Big, proud companies are experiencing massive fall in value creation. E.ON, Vattenfall, and Statoil, the big giant of Norway. Statoil deprived of almost half of its operating profit in 2015. What they are doing is massive cost and investment cuts. The CEO Eldar Sætre says, we have to reset the company. So of course, the dramatic fall in oil prices has hit this part of the energy industry the most, but it affects also the rest of the industry. And one of my key messages as working with communication is that this is about business. Communication is not about glam and glitter. It's not something superficial. It's about finance. It's about revenues. It's about value creation. So that's not always a romantic story. Coming from the renewable industry, you would expect me to say first that green is good. Green is good. But the fact is also that the renewable energy industry is struggling. Nordic power prices have fallen to the lowest in 15 years. Now we can see that on our quarterly results, I promise you. So we also need to change and improve. We need to be up for competition. So the transition we're talking about is not just from fossil to renewable energy. It's a transition that affects everyone as energy users. It affects our lives, and it's about sustainable economy. It's about bringing about a sustainable future that is also economically profitable. There are as a backdrop for what we do is 3 global trends that in a way are driving the green industry. This is population growth, climate change, and a technological revolution. Have a look. This is Shanghai in 1990. Today, Shanghai is the world's fastest growing city. Now look what happened in the city from 1990 to today. It's a massive expansion. Now, Shanghai was a big city already in 1990, but now, with a population exceeding 24 million, it's huge. Shanghai is one of 35 megacities in the world. And I guess some of you have been around and You know, when you go to Istanbul, you go to Mumbai, you go to Delhi, it's a traffic jam, it's difficult to get around, and it increases pollution. The world is actually adding more than 200,000 people every single day. In 2050, we will be 9.7 billion people. So this is the flip side, people, of the massive population growth, concentrated in big cities like Shanghai. This is what you see of heavy polluted air. The World Bank released just a few days ago a new report concluding that air pollution is the reason for 1 of 10 lives lost in this area. Air pollution is fatal, especially for kids, for young people. They cannot breathe. So this is also part of the reason, of course, why China is interested in combating climate change. And what I think, and this is my second postulate, is that cities will drive the changes in the energy systems globally. Cities will be the driving force, and local action will be very important for the global impact. And with my not so fluent in Icelandic introduction, you might guess which was the most clean country in this World Bank report. It was, of course, Iceland. And that doesn't come as a surprise. So that's one of the reasons to come here. But it's also maybe to see the contrast. It's a huge contrast. But my main point is that cities are key to combat climate change. And therefore, I'm also very happy to say that my home city, Oslo, is now ramping up its ambitions in becoming a more green city. The good news is that rapid technology development is also speeding up the green shift. So this is actually a new industrial revolution. We have passed a turning point. The fact is that the world is now adding more capacity for renewable power each year than fossil fuels. Now that is a very new finding. This is amazing. Towards 2035, wind power is set to continue its growth. Volumes will increase 5-fold. And solar power will radically change the power supply. Like, for example, in India, where Modi has the goal of a saffron revolution, a solar revolution. This will change the whole market setup radically. The shift towards this more distributed energy solutions can also be a bit similar to the game changes that we realized back in the old days in the media business where I used to work. I was in Aftenposten, the Norwegian paper, and NRK, as mentioned. And, the media, they acted a bit too late and too little and didn't really understand the digital revolution, didn't understand the great impact of the World Wide Web. Many of the news media companies went down. They were not able to cope with it. This is what also is happening with many energy companies. And there's another fact that has not been touched upon so much today when we're talking about the consumers being so important. There's another fact about consumers, and that is a power shift. It's a shift of power because consumers, the readers, the listeners, the TV viewers, they take on control. So when everyone is turned into their own editors on social media, it's also a shift in power. And this is important to realize when you communicate, when you brand. We also see other similarities. For example, that now will be just as common to have solar panels on the rooftop as an iPhone in your pocket. This is also a huge change, and it's very important. Innovation is paving the way for the world's green transition. And it's in this picture that we all are trying and struggling to find new profitability. Tesla's Elon Musk says, some people don't like change, but you need to embrace change if the alternative is disaster. And I believe that also traditional companies like Statkraft, being 120 years old, we need to embrace that there are possibilities, opportunities in this change. So Statkraft is present all around the world, not in the US, so except for that, but we are many places, 20 countries. One of our ambitions is to be an engine in the green shift, making the most of these technological breakthroughs and innovation. And in the future, we see ourselves more connected to the transport industry. For example, as was mentioned in the example from Iceland here, by charging electrical vehicles, introducing alternative fuels like biofuel. What we try to do is diversify our portfolio a bit more from not just working on hydropower, we're also into wind power, with various sources of energy, also a bit more throughout the value chain, with new business models. But we need to speed up. We realize that. We have some successful market operations in Germany, where we act as a trader for small producers, also exploring battery technology and solar power. And we've found that quite interesting. And as you all know, Germany is really, a gravitation center for the energy vendor in Europe. Regrettably, due to capital restraints, we have not been able to invest more in offshore wind, which is highly subsidized, by the way. But we are investing now in Fosen, which will be in the central part of Norway, and the largest land-based wind farm in Europe. Important contribution to renewable energy. The backbone of our industry, our business, is hydropower, and the everlasting resource of energy. And I believe that Norway is extremely fortunate to be able to set nature at work the way we do with a completely clean source. We also export our competencies within hydropower to other countries. And later this week, I'll be going to Albania, and we will there be opening a new hydropower plant, Banja hydropower plant, and we have another plant ready in 2018. And Albania, is really lacking of having a proper functioning energy market. So we believe that we are very well received in this country in trying to increase their access to electricity. And by this little plant, to put it that way, will increase the production a great deal by 17%, just the plant. So even though hydropower more and more is competing with other renewable technologies, we in Statkraft believe that there is an importance of hydropower that is underestimated. And we do believe that in 2035, it will still be the largest source of renewable energy for us, with a winning formula. It's renewable, it's flexible, and it's reliable. And so what all this has to do with branding? Well, I'll give you an example of how we brand hydropower. Now, you brought up the old man, Al Gore. I didn't know that you wouldn't do that, but we had him on our 120 years anniversary last year as a main speaker. And he's changed his opinion a bit. So he's not so pessimistic anymore. And he says that this green transition will be very economically profitable. So he's very interested in the financing side of it. What we did for branding was to involve every employee in all the spots that Statkraft is present all over the world. So this was in Turkey, in Peru, at the opera stage in Oslo, with great speakers, with the Queen of Norway to London. And we call it experience marketing. That's what we do. Now, we are not a company that is very consumer-oriented. So we find other ways of building the brand. And what we try to do is an integrated storytelling. And this way, we made a footprint from Gaupne in Norway and to Andes in Peru. So although we don't have a very strong interface with consumers, we believe that branding is crucial. This is because we need to create an understanding of our business, a trust in our strategy, our license to operate. So as the markets are in transition, we also need to change the way we think and work. New business opportunities, new business models imply new communication approaches. We try to reach out to broader audiences. We try to make experiencing marketing. But the power of tomorrow still lies in quality. Quality in arts, quality in business performance, quality in communication. So even in our high-speed society, some truths remain. Value creation is based on trust and credibility. That's not a quick fix. We need to act fast, yes, but we also need to act with a long-term perspective. We need to be dynamic, yes, but we also need to be resilient. So never before has the energy world been more complex, never before so challenging, and therefore I say, never has working with communication been so exciting. Thank you.